Now, I'm not saying that you gotta go out and buy a game show spinning wheel to get better at guitar. There are other things that you can use. But the important thing is that adding some randomization to your practice routines can really help to break bad habits. At some point in your guitar development, you probably felt that you were playing the same kinds of things all the time. I mean, we all have felt that way. And that's why we need to allocate some of our practice time to breaking habits. And adding randomization is a great way to do that because we can't predict what we're supposed to do next. We can't go back and choose the same thing all the time. And that's why I have this wheel here for my students who are working on improvisation especially, but other things as well. And sometimes I write different things on the wheel depending on the student's current level. This one is pretty advanced. First, we choose a chord progression. Let's try this one. G, C, G, D, C, G. That's just 1, 4, 5 in the key of G. You spin the wheel and then you've got to play the chord and whatever the wheel tells you to do. You've got to do it for that chord. So for example, if I spin the wheel and I get triad, I've got to be able to find a triad for that G chord. And then the next chord in the sequence is a C. I spin the wheel and let's say I get scale. That's not that hard of one, but I've got to play a scale that suits that chord. So in this case, if it's the C chord as the next chord in the sequence, I've got to play C major pentatonic. I gotta know where that is as soon as I see the wheel stop there, or as soon as I can. Let's do one entire sequence, and then I'll break it down more and tell you how you can do it without having to buy the Wheel of Fortune here. So you see how it forces us to break out of our well-worn habits. It forces us to think differently. And that's one of the methods I teach here often is I say to students who are learning improvisation, I say, what next? It's kind of the what next method sometimes. Just ask yourself, what did you just do? Don't do that again. Do something different. The point is we have to force ourselves to do something different. Otherwise, we just keep doing the same things. It's normal. It's very human to do that. So if you don't have a Wheel of Fortune, one thing you can just do is just write down a few things that you're currently working on. It could be whatever, like maybe it's major pentatonic, maybe arpeggios, maybe first inversion chords, maybe thirds, maybe target a major third or a root, whatever it is you're working on. You just make a short list and then you create a short chord progression. And you write down the chords in order next to each of those things you're working on. Now you've got a little structure that you've got to play. It's not quite as fun as having the spinning wheel, but it does work. And if those concepts are maybe too advanced for you, how about just a simpler list? You can actually just write a number of chords. Another thing I do is I'll just use dice or just one die, 1 to 6. And each one of those numbers is a different chord. So the 1 chord, the 2 chord, the 3 chord, etc. The students got to know in a major key, the 1, the 4, and the 5 are major, right? So if we're in the key of G and we roll a 1, we got to play a G chord and maybe a lick on that G chord. Then what if the student rolls a 5? We've got to play the 5 chord. That's a D in that key. You got to know that quickly, right? And maybe a lick on the 5 chord. What if the student rolled a 2? We gotta know that the 2 chord in major is a minor chord. In this case, it'll be A minor. Play the scale bit. And then what about a 4 chord? That would be C in the key of G. That's also also a really good way of testing yourself. And again, it's randomizing it. So you're not always playing, well, you don't even know what you're going to play next until you roll that dice. Let's take it a step further and apply this randomization concept to, say, creating a solo for a certain song. We'll just pick a simple song right now, like Stand By Me. How about this one that maybe everyone knows? We're going to take the chord sequence from Stand By Me, and we're going to use this randomization method to create a cool chord melody solo for that song. So first off, the song is in the key of A, I think. It goes like this. It goes 1 chord. It goes F sharp minor, 6th chord, right? And then it goes 4, 5, 1. So that would be D, E, and A. Now we can play that anywhere on the fretboard. And in fact, when we do this method, it's best to try to always stay where you just were, in the region you were just in. That's always best. So let's spin the wheel and see what we get for the first chord, A. We get double stops. So I can play double stops. Sounds nice. The next chord is F sharp minor. We spin the wheel. I can play the chord. It says scale. So I'm just gonna play a little bit of F sharp minor scale. Maybe play the chord again, it sounds good too. Now we've got D chord, we spin the wheel, and it says double stops. See, I try to play them somewhere in the same area is even harder. And then we spin the wheel again. It's on the E chord, the 5 chord, and we get sus4. Okay, I got sus4 right there, but it depends on where I am. I might be up here. And I've got to play a sus4 wherever I am. And we could spin the wheel one more time as we go back to the 1 chord, and it says triad. Well, I grabbed a triad already. Now we've created a really cool chord melody kind of solo for that song, and it forced us to use concepts that we might not be normally using. And by the way, we have lots of videos on all these concepts like triads and sus4 and arpeggios on this channel, and lots more on our Patreon too. And you can sign up for that today and get 7 days for free, so you might as well try it out. Let's do one entire sequence. We got arpeggio, triad, back to G, double stops, five chords, sus4, sus4, but on a 4 chord, that's sharp 11. And back to the 1 chord, arpeggio. Force yourself to do something different and you'll improve your guitar playing today. So there's something different. Patreon. Or this video right here.